The DZMJ. Right now we are here at the University of the Philippines, GC, on the first leadership forum, and we will interview Governor Matthew Marcos Manotoc. Manotoc, of Governor of Ilocos Norte. My question is regarding your ongoing project in your province that you help your producer to directly to the consumer regarding the rice farmer. My question is, how can you propose to other LGU, especially that your uncle is the acting secretary of Department of Agriculture, to have the effective implementation of the partnership between the LGU and the private sector?
Yeah, well, basically yung programa po namin is called P2C na inumpisa ng at aming gobernadora, no? Back then, ngayon, Senadora Amy Marcos, na dalhin at i-connect basically, no? Na wag na mag-rely sa trader or sa middleman, kami na lang ang middleman, and we connect our farmers to our buyers, no? Dito po sa Metro Manila, kasi alam po natin na our farmers in the province have the produce naman, kaya lang hindi umaabot, no, sa mga buyers sa Maynila. Kaya ito po ang P2C program that we signed just yesterday with Quezon City, and of course I encourage yung mga ibang LGU, no, na tulungan ng mga magsasaka natin na i-connect sila sa mga markets. Kasi ultimately yun ang pinakamahalaga sa agrikultura natin is yung marketing, no? Kasi kailangan sigurado ang kita ng mga manalon po na yung mga magsasaka po natin. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Ilocos Norte, wherein, for example, the rice tariffication law has wreaked havoc on our rice farmers. In Ilocos Norte, we are almost 300% rice exporters. So we produce almost 3 times more than we consume. And though that sounds impressive, it is both a gift and a curse, because our rice farmers are not able to sell at a profit. Dr. Velasco mentioned connecting LGUs to LGUs. In fact, just yesterday, we continued what we call our P2C program, producer to consumer, wherein we sign a MOA with Mayor Joy Belmonte of Quezon City for our farmers to sell our produce directly to the employees of the Quezon City Hall. So this is being done, and we hope to continue this arrangement also with other cities like Pasig and Manila, which were mentioned earlier. This was an initiative of then Governor and now Senator Amy Marcos, who of course is my mother, and it's something that we're continuing because it's a big help to our farmers. On the issue of importation, though, of course, we know that this was done in an effort to alleviate the burden on the consumers, right? We wanted to keep rice prices low, and thus the rice tariffication law was passed. But the side effect, or the downside, as I mentioned, is that our farmers are now not able to turn a profit, especially our rice farmers. And for example, the DA has allotted huge sums on the RCFA, RFFA, which is basically assistance to rice farmers, 5,000 pesos. But ultimately, it has become a dole-out, which was meant to modernize our rice farmers and their practices, but now has basically become welfare, which they use to make ends meet. Which, as mentioned, I think we need to really take a hard, critical look at this program, because the ambitions and the goals are not being achieved. I think my uncle, the president, and now the acting secretary of the Department of Agriculture, also brought up a good point. One that I'm sure the economists here would agree with, that we must seek our competitive advantage. So our goal perhaps should not be to cater to all of our food needs. Our goal should be to focus on industries where we do, in fact, have a competitive advantage. Meaning, if rice, as mentioned earlier, if we cannot compete with other nations, such as Thailand and even our neighbors on rice, then why bother produce all this rice? Why not find industries where perhaps we have a competitive advantage, perhaps coconut, perhaps bananas, perhaps mangoes, perhaps other HBCs. And of course, in my experience in Ilocos Norte, I can also say that one of our frustrations is that we're stuck in the production phase. We lose out on the so-called value chain. We produce our crops and we try to sell immediately. Two of our businessmen in Ilocos Norte have been able to capture this value chain by going into product processing and agribusiness, which we know can really help our farmers, because even if you can't find the market, so long as you can process your products and create value, it has a longer shelf life. And of course, another thing that I think we need to be mindful of with our farmers is that we need to be market driven. We shouldn't plant crops that don't have a robust market. We need to be market driven in terms of where we invest our resources. And of course, I'm happy to be here with an inventor and those in the private sector, because as mentioned by Doc Velasco, I totally concur. The government can only do so much. We really do need these so-called PPPs, wherein we work with the private sector and we seek their help, because I've been in government now for about 6 years, 3 years as a Bohal, like my esteemed colleague here, and 3 years as governor. And sad to say, the private sector really does lead, and we in the public sector just try to keep up. So we hope that these PPPs, wherein possibly the government can supply land and can counterpart that certain provisions like land, like labor, like certain resources, but the big capital investment, of course, hopefully will be in coordination with the private sector. Our farmers really need our help, and I do think that looking back and assessing the programs that we've had, we can find the path forward for the benefit of our farmers and, of course, for our country. Many thanks.
Thank you very much.
You've just witnessed our interview with the Governor of Ilocos Norte, no other than Governor Matthew Marcos Manotoc. This is MJ Albina Balaguer of DZMJ Online, Makabuluhang Journalismo, your happiness channel.